Hey guys, so I do thank Karl Jobst for jumping on the comment section and correcting two misconceptions I had. It was my understanding that Karl Jobst never wanted to settle with Billy Mitchell from all the things I've read. And Billy Mitchell didn't want to settle with Karl Jobst because of Karl Jobst' stance of not settling, right? You need two parties to settle. Karl jumped in and he said that there was actually a settlement offer that he made. And this is important for a few different reasons. Primarily being that when a settlement offer is made, my understanding of Australian law, and this is what Karl was saying, Billy has to win at least that amount of money. Otherwise, it kind of makes sense. It's a very interesting legal problem that typically does not exist in the U.S. because in the U.S. both parties pay their own lawyers. Here you have one party, the plaintiff, potentially paying the defendant's lawyer. And the questions I had is how can you control the defendant from just the cost ballooning out of control? I don't think there's a way to do it. You could say, hey, I believe I'm going to win. I'm going to cost the plaintiff a lot more money. And I'm going to hire the most expensive Johnny Cochran of Australia that I can find. How can you control, that from the plaintiff side of what the defendant chooses in terms of who represents them and what the financial expenditures would be? So he said that it was Karl Jobst commented that in May 2022, just going to read his exact statement. In May 2022, I made a settlement offer. Billy declined. I did my part to avoid this. The clips of me talking about not settling came years later when I've already sunk hundreds of thousands into a defense. Billy has to win and win a lot more than $1 for the court to award his cost. The damages need to be greater than my settlement offer. So whatever the settlement offer would be, I responded. Interesting, I was not aware you made a settlement offer at all. I do apologize if you are upset. I'm a much smaller channel working off the documents I can find online. I did not mean to spread misinformation. I found multiple quotes of you not wanting to settle. It seemed like a hellfire approach, which that's what I thought it was initially. When I reviewed the content, when I watched the videos, they were obviously, many of them were in 2024, many of them were in 2023. And many of them were in later 2022. So and nowhere else was it mentioned that there was a settlement. So doing my research, I assumed, wrongfully so, that Karl Jobst would not want to settle with Billy Mitchell, and therefore Billy Mitchell would not want to settle with Karl. It's kind of like you need two people to dance, right? I still can't find any discussion of the settlement amount. Is this public information? I'd like to clarify the amount in future videos you need to avoid Billy winning if it's not $1. Karl responds, sorry, I am not upset. The settlement offer was never made public. I won't say the amount at the moment, which is his right. It's in his best interest probably not to talk too much about settlement at this point in time. Originally, when I made the offer, I had spent nothing because Notch was paying. It was a good option for me at the time as I wanted to avoid everything that has happened after. If Billy wins, he will need to win more money than my settlement offer to actually win. If Billy loses, the fact that I offered to settle at all and he didn't take it will hurt him greatly. So I agree with all these statements. I did not realize there was ever a settlement offer. And Karl said the settlement offer was never made public. So this is actually new information that is being presented. That in 2022, Karl did try to settle with Billy Mitchell. Only later, after having spent more money, which is logical, did Karl take the hellfire approach, which is making multiple videos. So my understanding of it was how can you have a settlement agreement? How can you have settlement negotiations if you're going to continue to make videos about him? It seems kind of weird, right? You're in arbitration or mediation and you're trying to figure out a range of settlement, and another video pops up the next week, right? And it's like, well, do you really want to settle? But it seemed like in good faith, Karl Jobst did want to settle. I actually have another document someone sent me. I don't know It seems like it is a supporter of Karl, like from based on what the document says. I think it is a very good document for Karl, and I'm going to try to share as much information as I can as the information comes more and more, right? As there's more and more information, we'll give you updates. And like I said, again, if it's a settlement offer that was private, there's no way that I can know about that. There's no way I know what the amount is. It's obviously more than $1. I can predict that with pretty good certainty, but without understanding exactly how much the settlement is, then perhaps I don't actually know exactly how much Billy needs to win for Billy to not pay Karl's legal fees. It seems like the legal fees are really what's at stake here. I still believe that the main damages are not going to come from Billy winning damages on Karl because of his reputation, Donkey Kong situation. I think the main damages will come from who has to pay Karl Jobst's legal fees. So I think that's still correct. So I did say this. I completely understand on the settlement number being private. If the coverage is not correct, please correct me. If you wish to do privately, you can reach out to my email, but you can also correct me publicly as well. I was recently sued too for over $1 million for tortious interference involving clients. I do mention I'm in the US and not familiar with Australian defamation laws. I did review them in a few cases before jumping into this topic. My mistake was not realizing there had been a settlement offer because the settlement offer was not public. And to be quite fair, in 2022, there's not much, it really accelerated in 2023 and 2024. Obviously, the lawsuit is in 2024, right? It may not seem this way, but I really do enjoy your content. Absolutely. That's why the way I started covering Karl Jobst was his content on completely unrelated to Billy Mitchell. It was the content on the completionist, actually. And hope you beat Billy, who is a scary plaintiff indeed. So this is even more scary in my opinion. I assumed that Billy would have settled because he had settled with Apollo Legend. He had settled with Twin Galaxy. But it seems like, and I'm going to read you Karl's just straight up reading it, that Billy has never offered to settle with Karl or have a good faith discussion on what that number would look like to make them both happy, or like a handshake, or I assume that he would have offered the same thing he offered Apollo Legend to Karl, but Karl will correct me in the comments below. The legal fees in my case also got out of control. I had 2 attorneys. I made a decision that was different from yours in keeping your law firm. I'm interested to see how everything goes. Best of luck. I hope you win. Karl says, thanks. While I was upset about the lawsuit costing a lot, I will say my team has done a really good job through the trial, and I'm happy with how things have gone. So I actually made multiple videos about how I thought the team was really bad. But if the client is happy, the client is happy. And then he says, they are expensive, but I'm glad I stuck with this firm. So, again, that's a new piece of information I have, because the Camelot interview, which was presented in trial, and then I listened to, it did seem that Karl was quite aggravated and even threatened to leave the law firm over the cost. And I think that's crazy, right? I think that's crazy what they did to him. I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. I think when you give an estimate of $200,000, you have to keep it within the ballpark, within 50% at most, and then you as a law firm eat the cost. To hear Karl had to pay $200 and then $400 and then they wanted $600 is crazy. And then I say, good to hear that. Without you confirming this information and the evidence being presented in court from a blog on the stream, it seemed like you were unhappy with them. And Karl would later say, he would later respond to someone else, Billy has never made a settlement offer. It does change the dynamics. I assume that Karl was, from the videos that I watched, which were more recent videos, which were older than 2022. So if the settlement is made in 2022, Billy has no intention of settling, and Karl makes a settlement offer, but Billy does not, then it can get, obviously Karl is going to get, he's going to be like, okay, you don't want to settle with me. I'm going to make videos about you and some of the other statements that he made about not being a good winner and so on. That's what I was reading because that was what was presented. But it's great to have Karl's view on this. And yeah, so I can make, people want to know what I think Karl's lawyer did wrong. It's actually in the blog. Like, I agree with Erzcat. He mentioned that there was a certain thing that he didn't do that he could have done. It's quite fascinating, man. It is fascinating to see what happened here. I do feel bad for Karl. I think Karl will still win. I am glad that he's happy with the work they did. So it didn't skim work on him. And I wish him the best. I'm still going to cover this. I think there's still a lot of interest. I was sent a really interesting document. I just can't find it. I don't know what email they sent it to. I was sent a very easy, interesting document. It was Karl's affidavit on. It was Karl's affidavit. I can't find it. I don't know where it is. Karl's affidavit based on the Twin Galaxies case. Very fascinating stuff, guys. So anyway, again, if Karl thinks I'm wrong here, feel free to jump in privately or publicly in the comment section. Definitely appreciate all that. And yeah, great to see Karl in the comments. Hope he's doing well. I know how stressful this can be. Get some sleep and eat healthy, and it goes by really fast. My lawsuit was 4 years, or I guess 3 years. Technically, it was 4. I mean, it's kind of hard to tell when these things begin. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Bye, guys.